YouTube. We are live. On Friday night, myself and Rob Vera have got nothing better to do than sit and talk about Everton transfers that may or may not happen. To be fair to you, Rob, actually, it's not Friday night in the States, is it? You could yet go and have a bit of a wild one.
Oh yeah, it's not even lunchtime yet. So, but unfortunately, I've been awake since about 5 o'clock this morning, just because I felt like a little bit like a kid on Christmas with all the nerves of trying to figure out whether or not my dad ended up springing for the Millennium Falcon, or our Santa delivered the red bike. I think that's kind of where I'm at right now. So, I'm like a lot. I think I'm like a lot of people. I'm a little nervous, but I'm mostly hopeful. I'm not really nervous about two of the three. I'm just nervous about the one, and I'm trying to will it across the line by wearing my Columbia shirt today.
Well, just there for everybody out there as well. Of course, we are live on YouTube. It'd be great to get everybody else's comments, just serious or not, whether you're worried about any of these deals, whether you're excited about them, what you think is going to happen. We've already seen a few rumours about James that are starting to do the rounds, albeit none of them I don't think at this point should be taken anywhere near seriously. Of course, I think Sky reported today that he's been in his hotel room most of the day, and as such, people are thinking the worst immediately. But, this was the case of the show, no specific agenda in regards to what to talk about. We are going to speak about the three lads who are coming in, most likely. But effectively a blank canvas. You guys let us know what you think and how you're feeling, what you're doing this weekend, what you're doing tonight, all that sort of thing. So just keep interacting in the comment box, and me and Rob will be here. But just before we hit record there, Rob, you were sort of saying a little bit that you're getting anxious about one deal in particular, and that is the Rodriguez one. What's getting you a little bit nervous about
that? It's probably nothing logical. It is one reporter from Colombia who is he's not really saying that it's off or anything. He's just kind of alluding to the fact that things seem to have stopped for some reason, and that even though the medical's been passed and all of this, that James Rodriguez, this is Pipe Sierra from, I believe he's based out of Bogota. I think whenever you're dealing with a transfer of this magnitude, and let's be really honest, outside of, I guess maybe you could argue the return of Wayne Rooney, and even that's a little different, frankly. This is the biggest, just pure name celebrity, media magnet, whatever you want to call it, that we've signed in a long time. And so I think that there's always the sense that with something like that A, we don't know what to expect. B, we're informed by our PTSD from Everton deals in the past. And C, I think that I think there's this bit of doubt that occurs, or where we begin to create a reality to fill the void of not hearing anything that is generally informed by our own cynicism. I would say too that with James Rodriguez, whenever you're dealing with a player of this magnitude coming from Real Madrid, and I think there's this idea that we all kind of feel like, I think we've all been kind of going through that thing the last several days of, is James Rodriguez really signing for Everton? And so until it's done, I think there's a lot of people that think, well, what if it is too cold on Merseyside? What if the family has suddenly objected? What if it's, all these things that sound really silly. But I think a lot of us aren't going to feel great until it's done. I tend to believe that this is so far down the line. It's been confirmed as a goer so many places by so many reputable journalists. I mean, my goodness, you just had an extensive conversation with Sid Lowe the other day, you and Mike Diashis. So I tend to think this is going to get done, that these may be just last minute logistical things and language issues with the contract, as opposed to suddenly Real Madrid coming to their senses and saying, you know what, we can't let him go. So
Just don't let him
I don't
leave
know.
his
That's what
hotel
I
room
think.
unless he's gonna sign. Do not let him out of that hotel. Whatever you do,
How is the
just
Titanic Hotel, Matt? Is it like a pretty sweet
it's
hotel? Maybe
lovely.
he just wants to hang out, and
It is
I
it
don't.
is really good. It's got a nice bar area there. You can see out towards where our new stadium is going to be built and all that. Maybe he's just taking it all in that regard. So you
Yeah.
never know. And just to quickly point something out, Rob, we didn't move this forward today because we're expecting any sort of announcement to come at 5 o'clock or anything like that. Rob is literally tapping his nose there, but
I'm just kidding. No, we didn't do anything.
it is purely for for the logistical reasons. So anyone expected us to reveal anything really exclusive, unfortunately, we don't have that sort of pulling power and that sort of stuff going on with the football club. Let's read through some of these comments. In fact, one thing I did want to ask people, obviously this probably isn't going to collapse. We still expect James to join. What's your favourite Everton transfer story that got to the end of being pretty much done and then fell through at the last minute? Because there has been a lot down the years. But my favourite's got to be, I saw Alan Myers tweeting about this today, Fabrizio Ravanelli, who was at the football club, was there pretty much ready to sign, and eventually it fell through for other reasons. So there's been loads down the years. Let us know your favourite ones. But just someone on the Twitter box there said, James isn't happening, is it? Come on, let's stay calm. Live has said, is
Take a
it?
deep breath.
Yeah. Is it a Merseyside hotel room from Live? I'm assuming so, mate. It seems like he's been at the Titanic. Paul Hewitt has said Rodriguez would sign his contract, apparently. Stephen Quinney has said, hoping they're just going to do a triple reveal, so quite chilled about a small delay. I'm pretty much in the same bracket. And then Jay Pat saying all three will happen. James is a global star, probably something to do with image rights and whatnot. Paul Hewitt on the transfer deals that fell through said Muller. Do you know about that one, Rob?
I've heard about it over the years, but I don't recall how close that actually ever was to becoming a reality.
It was reported on the front page of the Liverpool Echo that Everton was signing him, and then it fell through. I think it was something to do with his agent told him the salary he would be getting, and then that was before tax, and then he realised during the negotiations that he wouldn't be getting anywhere near as much money as he thought, so he decided not to sign for us.
Hey, Matt, one thing I would point out too, and this is all we're really left with is to kind of spitball and wildly speculate, irresponsibly speculate perhaps on this. But I talked about this, we kind of alluded to when I was on the Kickabout with Keith and Les yesterday, and we just talked about, just the kind of immense nature of how, how big of a star James Rodriguez is, especially in this part of the world, but more specifically and obviously in South America. I feel like Everton have, on a day like this, and I grant you that in a world of Twitter that you only really have a 24-hour news cycle, right? But when you're about to sign this guy, you want to maximize the impact of the signing. There's two things that I think are interesting today. One other thing that's going on today is the weird Lionel Messi, will he, won't he, is he staying, is he not thing, and some announcement.
Yeah, don't think he's going to be coming to Everton, unfortunately, mate, is he?
No.
Doesn't look like.
No, very, very true. But now they're saying he's going to stay, or is he? And it all sounds like a mess there. I do wonder if that's taking some of the oxygen in the room, and do you want to? There's a part of me that just wonders if I was handling media at Everton, would I want that announcement to be dwarfed by, my big announcement being dwarfed by whatever is going to happen with Messi today. The other thing, though, too, I would point out, we were just talking about what time it is. I'm in the exact same time zone as Bogota, Colombia. So I do partly wonder if there's some sense that, you want to maximize the impact of an announcement at a slightly more optimal time than 10:30 in the morning here. Maybe they want to make it more of a lunchtime here, so therefore it's a 6 p.m. announcement over there. But I will be honest, I don't know if they're really working on a triple announcement, because I think there's a part of me that thinks James Rodriguez is probably someone who gets his own announcement. I would like to think. I think what I would like though is at least one announcement today. One thing that Everton do, and we talked about this yesterday, is they. I'm not saying they're doing it on purpose. I'm not saying that they're trying to drag it out, but it feels like at times, and maybe this is just because we pay such close attention to them, but boy, it does feel like they elongate every last hurdle possible. There's the legendary 7-round medical. There's the fact that every announcement must be a can-worthy short film submission. I was joking yesterday that when Leicester announced their signing of Timothy, is it Castagna?
Yeah, Castagna.
It looked like someone had built that on PowerPoint. It literally had a picture of him, his name, his I think his position, his nationality, and it said like "Welcome to Leicester." And I was like, just give me that, Everton. But for James, you're probably expecting something more. So that's my random spitball theory about what's maybe going on in terms of this. But I think it sounds like Alan is going to probably be announced today since he's heading that way. We've already seen him on camera heading to Finch Farm, and I don't really anticipate any problems with him or Decore. I'm not really worried about those two. They'll probably announce it, as I joked yesterday. They'll announce those deals at halftime when we're down 2-0 to 2-0 to Preston tomorrow.
maybe
really
just
bring it home.
Yeah, maybe they're just keeping it back in case we do lose tomorrow, and they figure, right, if it all goes tits up tomorrow, and we 3-0 down after 10 minutes again, and we need at least 3 signings in the bag to placate everybody. So maybe they're just keeping an ace in the pack. But just before people keep loads of comments on YouTube. Please do keep coming them in. This is going to be by far Rob, our most watched live stream ever. Looking at the numbers here, so thanks everybody to getting involved. Do keep the comments coming in. Just one interesting point that you made there, I think that I would want to address before we get onto the comments. And I think you're right about that news cycle, because we sort of gone, when we did this show a couple of weeks ago with Mike Greenall, it was very much a case of, well, there's not really anything to talk about. And we were sort of going through the motions, and there wasn't really much going on. And I think what's happened, it's sort of basically like someone's just hit the accelerator pretty much in the last week. And every day it's been Everton are interested in player X, Everton are interested in player Y, Everton are interested in player Z. And then it's Everton have agreed terms with player X, player Y, player Z. Everton have agreed a fee with X, Y, Z. And I think that when there's 3 and there's so many different sources obviously reporting these, it just feels like the news is going and going and going. And I think what we've done now is we've got to a point where it was pretty much confirmed on Wednesday, was it? The Decore fee was agreed, and that was sort of like the last of the 3, wasn't it? Where it felt like all the boxes had been ticked to get these over the lines. And we've had a full day yesterday where nothing's really happened, and everyone sort of assumes to themselves, well, it's going to be announced today. And I think maybe this is why we're doing this show now subconsciously. That I think we try and fill when there's been so much going on over the last few weeks, and there's so many stories, so many talks about the play, On the Blue Room this week, we put out loads of stuff of interviews and guests speaking about all these different players, sort of in the view that it's going to be announced Thursday, Friday at the latest. And what we've had is effectively 2 days of radio silence from the football club. And I think everyone goes, oh my God, what's happening? And then you start to see things, you start to talk about things. And that in turn leads to mad rumours effectively taking a life of their own on.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think, again, I think we think that it's just us, or we think that we're special in this way, but I think it's human nature at times to fill the void of uncertainty with your own narrative. And I think that we're informed by a lot of things in the past that really shouldn't apply anymore. The things that happened, stuff that happened with a Moyes signing really isn't, years ago is not particularly applicable. I mean, I guess Bill is still there, but we've really got a completely different setup at Everton now. I tend to think that that this is one of those instances where we're like you said, I think you make a good point. We've had so much news happening, so much of it feeling positive, that it's almost, we're so unaccustomed to not only strong links, but then confirmations from, really good media sources. that I think that we are just almost not equipped to believe it at times. I mean, you even think back to a couple of years ago when we had a good window. We got Luka Dean, we got, we felt, Andre Gomez and Yerry Mina. And again, you can feel however you want about those. But at the time, I remember even those last couple deals for Yerry Mina and Gomez dragged to the last possible minute. Now we're a month from the window, guys. I do want to point that out. We're a month plus from the window closing, and we're getting deals done, and significant deals at that. And it's almost like there's a part of our brains that is not equipped to fully accept it. And so therefore, when some promise is dangled out there, if it is not fulfilled in pretty short order, we start to freak out a little bit. Like I was saying the other day, I wonder, do you remember, God, it was like a week and a half ago, I think, all of the kind of, the David Ornsteins of the world and so on were confirming Gabriel to Arsenal. And yet they didn't announce it for like another week or I felt like a week or
it's a great
plus.
shout, yeah.
Guys, what if that, you never know. Like, I think we'll probably get at least one of these deals announced in the next 24 to 48 hours. And that's the most conservative estimate I've got. But I mean, can you imagine if we had been, if that had been us in that situation? I don't know. I feel like we will burn down the Twitter house if these deals aren't announced before the end of the weekend. And really, if we get to Sunday, nothing's been announced. I think people are going to start losing their shit. But I do think that I do tend to think, again, the Doucouré deal is done by every account. He's signed it. He's done his medical. Allen, same thing. I think really the only open question right now, because we have not heard that he signed on the dotted line, is James Rodriguez, because he is the most prominent one, because he represents this shiny thing that we are not accustomed to having in the quote, we can't have nice things sort of way. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, just a few more comments on Twitter. For those who joined in midway through, I wanted everyone to let us know their favourite Everton transfer saga that fell through at the end. Paul Hewitt also said Muller, Mike Walker was signing him, he came in a red jacket. Canal Desai has also said Muller when he thought he was getting gross salary, not net. And he's also said Sean Davis from Fulham dragged on for days only for his medical not to be passed. I don't want to shit people up with all this, by the way. It's just looking for funny stories in that regard, maybe to calm people down. Graham Davis has said, I worry about our club and the fact that, in my opinion, the people we have running the club, who I believe are genuine stand-up people, but business-wise, they don't have the skills and experience to steer us and maximise the situation and opportunity our club are currently in.
We're saying that, but realize that the person saying that, and again, I know why that sentiment is in, how it's informed, because I've been around this thing for a long time. But you're now talking about, you're trying to apply that logic to Carlo Ancelotti and Marcel Brands, who even if you don't think that you agree with all the moves he's made, he generally gets the deals done that he wants done, bar the last summer with trying. I think he just was, he tried to hold on a little too long for Kurt Zuma. But other than that, we're still dealing with a long time until the window closes. We're dealing with someone who, by all accounts, has helped us to get these deals down in terms of price and in structure to something that we could, feasibly pull off. That's not going to, because for all the 60 million fee, quoted, I think the structure and the terms of it are pretty favorable to us given everything. So I think that might be a bit unfair to say that we just don't have the acumen to get these deals done. I think we've already got 2 deals pretty much in the bag, and I'm not worried about Allen or Doucouré at this point. And by the way, before all of the James Rodriguez stuff came up, if you had told me, after the last game of the season, that we would be signing both Doucouré and Allen, and we'd be doing it with over a week plus before the first game of the season, I would have thought, A, that you were probably completely crazy, because I'm like, well, we just don't operate that way, and we'll never get priced down. And B, I think that we would have thought that it would have been just too prohibitive or whatever. I think I'm not trying to soften the expectations so that when we lose James Rodriguez that we're still happy, because I will cry. I'm emotionally, this is the most emotionally invested I've been in a player we were trying to acquire since Yarmolenko, and that's Yarmolenko. Yarmolenko isn't even in the same universe as James Rodriguez, and yet I was so emotionally invested in it for reasons that I don't even fully remember now. So I guess my point is that let's also consider that, you know, before we start attacking the business acumen, let's realize that this was always going to be, this is going to, you know, if we can pull off all three, it's incredible. But even if we only somehow, even if that one falls through, it'll suck and people will, you know, not freak out. Even though I don't think it's going to fall through. But to get two central midfield, you know, to get two huge central midfield pieces in a positional unit that was by far the glaring weakness of our squad, I think is incredible business. And by all accounts, I think we're still after a right back at this point as well. So I think we need to just tap the brakes and I'll take a deep breath here. And maybe I'm talking myself into this, Matt. I don't know.
Yeah, I totally agree, mate. Big deep breath, put the brakes on, however you want to put it. I think it is fine. I don't think anyone should be worrying about these deals. Yeah, just a few more comments. Jabinho has said, "Stop listening to Mamacita by the Black Eyed Peas on loop to watch this." Ian Clark has said Everton should put the word excruciating on the badge. Just a couple more as well. Jamie Dodds has said deadline is a month away, but can't take having our black hole of the midfield take to the field against Spurs. I think Alan and Decore will be done quickly though. Yeah, I imagine they'll both be in the side. And we also had a few more transfer sagas that fell through at the last minute. Neil Abraham said David Moyes got a work permit for Ever Benego without telling him. That is definitely one of my favourites, Rob, that one. That was a ridiculous saga. Ravanelli, Matthew Barry, as mentioned earlier. Toffee Web, Lyndon Lloyd, good evening, or good morning for you, mate, wearing it. Has said, not necessarily a favourite, but Vadis Adidja Afoe. Do you remember him, Rob?
I remember that. I do remember that because I remember Everton, and believe me, I can't remember a single thing about the player at this point. I only remember the saga, which is very on brand for me, who loves the transfer weirdness. But that deal was, Everton made this kind of half announcement on their site saying, we have a deal in place for him, but it's something about like evaluating the medicals further. We'll update when we can, but and then it ended up falling through. And I believe it was over a disputed medical issue or something like that. But I remember being really disappointed over a guy who really is just a relatively anonymous player in Premier League history. And I don't remember a thing about him. But yeah, you know, conversely, Matt, I will say this, just to kind of turn that question on its head just a little bit. What is your favorite last second deal? Mine's easy. It's Marouane Fellaini. I remember
that was the one that came to my head straight away.
Yeah, that one pre-Twitter, and I was at a friend's house in Norman, Oklahoma. That's a suburb of Oklahoma City, and I'd attended college there. But I was over at a friend's. We were playing poker. It was like a poker night or something like that. And I was there because that was back when it was like midnight over there was the deadline. I can't remember exactly what the deal was, but I was over there around dinner time. They had like a bad dial-up internet that was terrible, and I was just hitting refresh, and I just thought nothing was going to happen. And then suddenly, I think we didn't even find out until a few minutes after the deadline had passed that we'd gotten it in. And again, I didn't really know much about Marouane Fellaini at the time, but I knew that we had to get him because that's all had been talked about, and we just need to get something done. And of course, he ended up turning into one of my all-time favorite Everton players. So that's probably why it sticks out the most.
That one, I remember going to bed and waking up in the morning to find out it'd been done. I think the club announced it at something ridiculous like 3 a.m. It was crazy. But I remember before that, what happened was Liverpool had played Standard Liège in the Europa League, and he played in those games and was really impressive. And there's a photo going around, I'm sure if you just Google Fellaini, Steven Gerrard, you'll probably be able to find it, of him grabbing Gerrard by the face and just pulling him to one side. And everyone was like, we've got to get this fella. He looks really good. He's got mad hair. He's 6'5", and he beats up the Reds captain. And I think you're absolutely right. It was one of them where people didn't really know much. Lyndon said Fellaini was Toffee Web's claim to fame. Had the exclusive on the site for hours back in the day when we had actual ITK sources. There you go. Do go check out Toffee Web, of course, as well. for all the latest goings on as well. It's always a fantastic read. Craig Hayward said Manny Fernandez. That was a disappointing one. Neil Abraham at Negredo always came from Sevilla at the same time as well. A few shots for Leroy Fair.
Oh yeah,
that was an interesting one. I remember he's failed his medical, and there's also the story about his missus having a horse in a flat in Manchester.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that was all very insane as well. So I think what we're saying is that here, Rob, is that it's we've been through these sorts of things before, haven't we?
Yeah, but I will say, Matt, and I don't mean to totally throw you under the bus here, but earlier today, I think you were saying this tongue in cheek when the Hamas stuff, like when there was this idea that he might be staying in the hotel today, whatever that even means. I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean a thing. You're like getting Major Sissoko vibes off this thing, and boy, Sissoko was one of my favorite ones too. Or infamous. Yeah. I guess. I don't know if I can say it's my favorite, but I remember distinctly, I travel a lot for business, and I remember I was commuting between flights. I think I was in Atlanta getting on a flight, just staring daggers into my phone where you have, if he agreed for Sissoko, he's coming to us. No, he's changing his mind. Like the picture that was painted online was of this car that kept driving in one direction and then turning around and driving in the other direction. And like, I just thought it was insane. And I remember being pretty, kind of disappointed that Sissoko didn't sign, but then I think I was easily able to talk myself into, well, Sissoko's not that great anyway, who cares?
Turning his phone off whenever we're trying to get hold of him was
God, the ultimate. Boy, Spurs have done a number on us a few times, but I mean, that's just how it goes. I'm sure we've done that to some other clubs here and there.
Absolutely. I've just seen there, James has put an Instagram post on his story of his legs, and all good. He's sort of looking down, taking a photo of his legs, looking down at the floor in trainers, and of course, people on Twitter, including our friend Darren, NSNO83, is Googling to see what the floors look like in the Titanic hotel.
Oh my God, that is next level. We are next level. Like, are we trying to determine, is this the floor? Yeah, I'm looking at this too. I just think he's having, really all he's doing is taking a picture of his shoes, is what it looks like, and adding a little fire emoji there. It sure does that. Let me put it this way. If there was some big hitch and some big thing had changed, it seems a bit counterintuitive to think he'd be kind of flippantly just like posting Instagram stories as if nothing was going on. Now, I will tell you, having said all of that, Matt, that I would feel much more comfortable if he would finally follow Everton on Instagram, as I've been checking over and over again constantly for the last several days. Like but here's one thing that I do find to be somewhat encouraging, and I'm sure someone else has caught this before me. I'm not saying that I caught it first, but he absolutely was not following Doucouré like a day or two ago, and he is now. So I'm going to choose to believe that means something. Maybe nothing at all. Because he could absolutely not sign his contract and still follow Doucouré, I guess. But I mean, I want to think we're going to be laughing about all of this very soon.
I've just seen that on Twitter. It's someone EFC_Bible has found a picture of the floor in the Titanic gym next to a mirror, and it looks similar to what he's put on that photo there. EFC_. I mean, this is insane.
You can't look. This is look. You see me laugh. You see us laughing and smiling, okay? And when I get asked why I love this season so much, this is it. This is the insanity that I both love and hate all at once. But that from a cumulative perspective, like the transfer window is greater than the sum of its parts, right? Because the entertainment value, the drama, the emotional swings of it are certainly of greater impact almost in every case compared to the actual players we sign, and so I can't help but love. Now, then there are people like Chico who just want to see this whole thing fall apart just for the pure entertainment value of it. I am not that guy. Even though he is my friend, I know he's primarily doing a bit, and he wants to sign James Rodriguez, I'm sure. But the sheer madness of helicopter or plane tracking. I mean, my goodness, if he had taken a photo of those shoes next to a car, people would be looking up the way in which certain tires look, like how tires are made, and like, oh, I don't know, that tire doesn't look like what would be on a standard Liverpool City cab, or maybe this Uber driver or something like that. I mean, it's just so nuts, but that's what makes us who we are. That's why Everton Twitter has sucked so many of us in over the years.
Yeah, internet detectives everywhere, aren't there, mate?
Hey, by the way, guys, just for those of you who are listening, if I ever go missing, I fully expect you to employ this level of insanity to find me. Right? So you better, I fully expect this level of, it's almost like we're treating this like a true crime or something like that. Like people who are Kennedy conspiracy theorists and stuff.
It reminds me a little bit of that Don't Fuck with Cats program on Netflix, where they like went round and like looked at every street light in Toronto to try and find out where that fella lived. Yeah. Graham Davis jokingly said he's got Adidas socks and shorts on, not Hummel. But yeah, it looks like the Titanic gym floor, hopefully. Anyway, just a couple more things, and then we'll get to some of your questions. Dave Marcus said Nigel Martin the first time round, not being given a hamper of park foods by Johnson, and heads to Leeds for the best years of his career. Yeah, God, things would have been so much better for Everton if they were able to get him through the door. One other thing, Rob, I wanted to speak to you about this, on a more serious topic, and I thought it was really nice point you made, and really sweet and probably quite important as well, was how you sort of looked at these players coming in. Obviously we've got Yerry Mina, Bernard Richarlison at the football club already. Just bring your tweet up here. I'll read it out verbatim. Saying this Latino Evertonian is filled with pride seeing the recent influx of Latin American players into a previously, let's face it, vanilla, stale squad. The relatively emerging diversity at Everton makes us more appealing to a wider audience, and that can only be a good thing. I just thought that was really sweet, and then in the same sense, really important.
Well, yeah. Look, I think that sometimes it can be, especially when so much of Everton's fandom is I don't want to say limited, but concentrated in England and in the UK, and maybe just in Europe in general. Obviously, we know that there are Everton fans all over the world, but because there are Everton fans all over the world, there is something about representation and seeing players who are from cultural backgrounds that are similar to you, from parts of your hemisphere, whatever you want to call it. But as someone who, and I wrote an article, it's funny, I wrote an article in the first issue of Turn, for those of you who are familiar with the zine that our friends Darren and Mike Diasha co-helm, about the fact that suddenly we'd begun to bring in more diversity, but also more personality into the squad, and that was a couple of years ago. I think that when I say vanilla squad, I guess that may have a double meaning, like, oh, it's a bunch of white players. It's not necessarily the case. I mean, Everton it's not like Everton are a team. We're not Burnley or something like that. I'm not saying that, but what I am saying is that most of our players have primarily been from Europe, or occasionally African players, with every now and then you'd have a Central American or a South American player here or there. But suddenly to have this influx of players, I think personally, and especially when in the social media age that we're in now, you see the kind of lightness, the humor, the fun that has been brought to our club by guys like Richarlison, by Yerry Mina. I mean, I don't know how anyone can dislike Yerry Mina, regardless of what kind of player you think he is. He's great in the community, but he also has a smile on his face. He is human sunshine. And a lot of that is part of, there is something intrinsic to Latin culture, which really does sort of celebrate some people can take it as not being serious, but I think that they celebrate every day with the idea that whatever you're doing and that you're passionate about should be something that you have fun with, something that you should smile about, something that is worth dancing for. It's something that to me it is bringing color and vibrance to our squad and to Everton, and taking this very distinctly English and Scouts institution, whatever you want to call it, and kind of bringing it in some ways into focus of being something that is even more worldly than it's been. And I think that's great because of just how passionate, especially when you consider our best players, if we sign James Rodriguez, will be James Rodriguez and Richarlison, and guys like Yari Mina. We've got Bernard. We may be bringing in, if the Arias story is true, maybe another Colombian right back. I tend to feel that when you can plug into a very passionate fan base in that part of the world, that kind of thing brings love back, and it brings attention back and passion back, and it's not only reflected on the players on the pitch but also in the new fans that we can attract. And so I think that from that standpoint, having players who we're following their journeys while they learn English and they learn what being living in Liverpool or in the Northwest is like. I think we've all enjoyed that journey with them, and we feel closer to it because of them. And as I've said before, diversity really truly is its own reward, and so I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, wonderfully put, mate. I couldn't agree more, and I think that's probably Everton's biggest challenge. I think as they move forward, if they do want to become a super club in that sense one day, I think while they'll be keen to maintain that local identity and that Scouse heritage, as you sort of put it there, to balance that with the being a club that's identifiable around the world. I think the best way to do that is with players, as you mentioned there. And I've seen people today tweeting the Everton fan services account saying, why isn't the shirt available in Brazil? Why isn't it available in Colombia? And that's probably a conversation for another time with people who are probably a little bit more business-minded than the likes of me and you. But
yeah.
Go on.
Well, I was going to say, beyond the money part of it too, it's I want to see more Everton shirts in all parts in this part of the world. Especially here in the United States, where football is still kind of a niche sport compared to the big four. Having passionate Brazilian and Colombian audiences doesn't just impact what happens in South America. It absolutely impacts the popularity and the visibility of Everton here. I'll go as far as to say that I don't want to stop at just being able to provide shirts. If James Rodriguez arrives here, at some point there needs to be a Spanish language broadcast of games. There needs to be a better website experience, like you see with a lot of clubs, where you can press on multiple nationalities on the site and really get a good, Spanish or Portuguese language version of our website. Those things are a reflection of a club that is part of, modern football in the 21st century, but that understands its audience is not limited to, one time zone and one language. And to me, especially as we go into this exciting new era in the new stadium, having a squad and a presence that reflects the rest of the world can only be a good thing. I don't think that Everton will ever lose its quote unquote, Scouse identity, English identity, because that's the historical root of Everton. If anything, it is exposing that identity to a greater part of the world. And so I think it has almost like a bidirectional sort of impact, in that we are showing the world what is so amazing and truly great about Everton, and the rest of the world is able to show us what is great about them and what they can add to that history and add to the value of the club that goes way beyond just t-shirt sale, shirt sales. Yeah. So that's a bit poetic, I'm sure, but and maybe a bit idealistic, but that's just generally how I feel.
No, I think it's really important points. And just one more thing I want to say on this. We have just people, you got any questions for me and Rob before we go? Probably stand for about another 10 minutes or so. About signings, about anything else. Keep your transfer sagas that fell through at the last minute coming in as well. But just very quickly on that point, Rob, it feels as though Everton have almost explored and got roots in pretty much all corners of the world with links to players and tours they've done in the past. Maybe apart from Latin America and South America, because they've had Tim Cahill with Australia. Earlier on, a few years ago, they had the likes of Lee Tai, with the Asian marks as well. They've had Stephen Pienaar, Idrissa Gueye in Africa. They've had Tim Howard, Landon Donovan, obviously in North America. It feels as though this is probably the last part of the footballing world, if you will, that the club haven't really explored as much as maybe the other ones. And I think what you're saying there in regards to Everton, being able to put forward a bit more, Spanish-speaking things and that sort of stuff. Not only does that promote Everton to that part of the world, it means that Everton can learn a lot more about the people in that part of the world as well, and interact with people, how they sample their football, and the best way of reaching that market. So I think you're absolutely right. It's really important that Everton become more accessible to Latin America and South America in particular. And that's not just through selling the shirts there, it's through doing all those things that you said.
Yeah. Well, and by the way, even if you reject my somewhat idealistic approach to all of this, from just a purely common sense perspective, raising our profile in a part of the world that produces an inordinate amount of footballing talent is a great idea because that ultimately enables us to do the things that we want to be able to do in regards to not only recruitment at a first team level like this, but what happens when suddenly we can create a pipeline to bring academy players over on a more consistent basis from that part of the world, or to create academies over there that help produce potential talent there. I mean, that's just a way of thinking that other clubs have been engaged in, and I think that we always frame Everton's fortunes in terms of money. If we have more money, we can do things. But I think we found very painfully over the last few years, it's not just money alone. Even though I'm glad we're spending it, it's not money alone that's going to make us a great, back to being what we once were. I think it's about being something A, different, and B, being a club that not only spends money, but is forward thinking. And that's the thing about Everton. Historically, there is no club that has been more forward thinking in regards to the game of football historically. Look it up. For those of you who are listening to this and thinking I'm a homer, I am a homer, but this is true. I would love to see some of that real endeavor be established in regards to thinking about how we make Everton an appealing club all over the world, but specifically in places where we can mine more football talent and mine more fans.
Yeah, but that's a great way of putting it. We've had a few questions just to finish off, Rob. Craig Haywood has said, if these three are completed, do you think we'll have any more permanent transfers, or will be a couple of loans? I have to say, Rob, I'll probably be surprised that Everton spent much more money. I think it'll be a bit of wheeling and dealing, and maybe someone right back in on loan, maybe a goalkeeper in on loan. I couldn't really foresee much more than that. What about you?
Yeah, I think the only other two links that I've seen repeated multiple times from beyond these three have been Santiago Arias from Atletico, that Dominic King reported very strongly. We were in relatively deep discussions for. Of course, I just saw the other day it's tested positive for COVID, so now I'm absolutely convinced he's coming to us. But there have been some lighter links to Diego is it Dalot? I don't know how to pronounce his last name. He's Portuguese international at United. I would probably be a little more attracted to that given his age, and the fact that you could, with either of those, you could probably do some sort of loan with an option. I think that's great. But really the primary ones have been Arias, and then the other one, we've been linked several times to Sergio Romero from United. You guys know how I feel about the keeper situation. We absolutely need true competition, whether that's Lossell or someone else. Pickford is clearly in a position to be pushed for his starting place in England, and I absolutely think that the book should be opened. The competition should be open. He'll start the season, obviously, but I think that we need someone who can really push him to be better. And so those are both situations where if you look at Romero, I don't think that would cost a ton of money, but it looks like he might be going to Villa. I'm not sure. And then you have, Arias, which it sounds like that would not be a prohibitive deal. Either way, I do feel like the club, the club does have financial concerns. I think they probably overstated them a bit to make, to help their negotiating stance in the market. They've been creative, and that's a testament to Marcel Brands, to Carlo, to potentially to Bill Kinwright, whoever is, Ryan Etzev, whoever's doing all the string pulling behind the scenes. But I think that you're right. Like these three represent the big movement of the window. And again, I want to remind everyone, if you had told me that we would be signing three significant midfield additions when I originally thought we might just be getting one, you gotta be pretty satisfied with that. I mean, that's again, we all know what could go wrong, but at the same time, we can't just think that way. I think we have to evaluate. All we can do on the transfer show, for instance, or in most of these discussions before the season starts, is evaluate the soundness of the idea, the plan, etc. I think that there are definitely some pros and cons to the approach of these three that you can debate, and we certainly have. But I also think that the idea of adding quality, and I've said this for months, the need to add instant contributors as opposed to people who would maybe be good in a couple of years. I mean, Everton need to be good while Carlo Ancelotti is here, and more specifically, we need to find a way into Europe come hell or high water going into next season. I just think that's where we need to be as a club. I think that's the only way that we have a chance in hell of keeping Richarlison, though I'm banking on him being here for one more season. He will certainly have been impressed by these signings, you would imagine, given who they are and the pedigree here. But again, I think the idea of what they're doing right now is quite impressive, and we just got to hope for the best. And I know hope is a scary word for you guys, but it's one that I'm trying to. I said this the other day, man. I'm trying to not be instantly cynical about all this. I've got the whole season to be cynical about it, but right now I'm not going to be cynical about it. So that's just generally my stance right now. But it's hard not to feel good. I am a little aggravated that we are finishing up this pod and we still don't have a signing announced, just because of the fun of that. But they'll, we have found out in this hour that Messi is staying at Barcelona, which is kind of sad to me because I was hoping to see him play Everton at some point this season. But I do expect that we'll be getting these announcements soon. And there's no solid reporting to suggest that anything is seriously wrong with the James Rodriguez situation. I think that the silence in some ways is somewhat reassuring, because that given his stature, we would have probably heard something more significant from someone more significant if there was something to be truly worried about. And I've probably just jinxed it, and I'm sorry.
and we know as well, mate, that he's in the Titanic Hotel gym now, don't we? As people have found out on Twitter. So
yeah, it must be a sweet gym. It's a nice floor. I'm amazed that, the internet is amazing, Matt. If you had said to me, hey, can you look up what the floor design of a gym in a hotel in Liverpool is? I would have thought, well, I don't know. I mean, you might have to go to like a city planner or some office. Nope. It's right there online, because you never know when you're going to need something like that. So hopefully we're not evaluating curtains or bed sheets anytime soon. We can just get this deal done. But credit to all of our amateur sleuths out there. You are what make Everton social media and Twitter especially a magical, weird place.
Yeah, wonderful stuff. We will leave it there. We've done almost 50 minutes here on the transfer show. Really serious thanks to everyone who interacted with this today. We've had more people. We've had more people on than ever in regards to this.
Thank you, guys.
So thanks very much for interacting. If we just passed 1,000 subscribers for the channel as well, as we did this as well,
nice,
which is really nice. Which is really nice. So thanks very much to everyone.
Hey, for those of you who are listening, we do cool stuff like this all the time. Okay, so keep coming
absolutely.
back.
yeah. We're doing more of the shows on YouTube. It's dead easy. Now I figured out how to use Zoom. It's dead easy. How to stream these. So we do more of this stuff live. We absolutely love interacting with people on this platform as well. It's always a great laugh, and we're going to keep doing more. Do you want to hear more from us as well? Just Rob, just quickly do that again. I don't think people saw that.
Kissing the Columbia badge for luck here, and wishing all of you a Yerry Mina kind of day.
there we go. We'll leave it there. But we'd also do podcasts, of course, as well. We've got tons of stuff out on the Blue Room Extra this week. Me and Mike Diaz, probably my favourite show we've done for a long time, Spirits of the Guardians, and the Spanish football podcast, Sid Lowe, who is the absolute doyen when it comes to anything on Spanish football. He spoke so well about James and what Everton could potentially be getting. He generously gave us half an hour of his time, which is no mean feat given what's going on with Lionel Messi at the moment in Spain. So thanks very much to everyone for getting involved. Do go and check that out. If you want to hear more from us, it's patreon.com/the Blue Room Extra. We'll be back again at the start of next week with more content. Have a good weekend. Don't panic too much about transfers. I'm